Hello everybody and welcome to Going for Goldbridge. I hope you're all doing well, and today we're going to answer something that I've been asked so many times, and I'm going to shout out at CFCLou_. Look, have you got any ghost stories? This seems to get asked all the time, and it's not something I've ever wanted to talk about, but this is something that I think even recording this is going to make me shiver. It's something that happened to me when I was about 14, and but I'll tell it, why not? Also, we will be taking your questions as well. And just very quickly, just to lighten the mood a little bit before we go into this, because I think it's going to scare some of you. It's definitely going to scare me. I won't sleep tonight. Is that I saw it trending on Twitter today, things you would cancel. And it just got me thinking, to start off on a light note, things I would cancel, right? Things I would definitely cancel: international break in football, bloody hate it, meaningless. You start a season and then it's just killed. Poundland international games, absolutely hate it, can't stand that. Also, I would cancel 3 p.m. games not being allowed to be watched in England. I think it's ridiculous if you're a fan of Liverpool, Manchester United, City, whoever, that if you haven't got a ticket to a game at 3 o'clock on a Saturday, you can't watch that game. What if you're playing Bournemouth with an 11,000 capacity and they only give 1,000 away tickets? That means only 1,000 Liverpool fans or United fans in the UK can watch that game. It's bloody ridiculous. I would also, I'd like to cancel X Factor because it's shit. And also slow driving. I think slow driving, yeah, look, speeding tickets, great. I've got no problem with that. But slow driving is absolutely as dangerous as that. It irritates the crap out of me. And I think actually maybe we should ban people from driving over 80. Sorry, but you tend to be the people driving slow. And this one, definitely, the final one before we get into the ghost story, paying for bought games. Paying for bought games. So if you buy like FIFA or Red Dead 2 Redemption or Grand Theft Auto, and when you bought that game that you paid 50, 60, 70 quid for, you then have to buy things within the game, like Ultimate Team, whatever. And I think I would cancel that. I never had this growing up. It's something for the youth of today. I never had this. You buy Sonic the Hedgehog or, Super Mario Brothers or whatever. You don't have to buy extras within the game. And I think it's disgusting. I think it's really bad. It's like buying a Big Mac at McDonald's, isn't it? And you take a bite out of it and you're like, where's my lettuce? And you've got a little McDonald's person, well, they don't have to be little, they can be big, stood there going, that'll be 20p for your lettuce, but there's no sauce in it as well. Oh, another 20p for the sauce. You eat half the burger. Would you like another burger for 50p? It's ridiculous. You pay for a product, you should get that product. And they make enough money off the sale of the game without ripping people off time and time again. I think it's disgusting. I think it's absolutely disgusting, and it should be cancelled. The amount of money they make just from the sale of the game is enough. This extra money, it's almost, some people say it's like gambling. I don't know about that, but it's certainly manipulative, and I don't like it. But there we go. I've got a few more as well. Sticking on the McDonald's theme, the paper straws, cancel them. They're disgusting. Makes my teeth cringe. Trying to suck that. As I said the other day, it's like an Arsenal fan trying to suck a Premier League title through a brick wall. A few sucks and you cannot get anything through it, and it really plays with my teeth. So McDonald's paper straws, they may be good for the environment, which I've heard actually they're not. But you know what? What's more important, the environment or having a nice milkshake through a nice plastic straw? I'll leave it to you. I'm not going to say anything. But look, let's get on with the ghost story. Then we'll take some of your questions. We've got some really good questions today as well. I always try and find a question that's just ridiculous. Like we had that one last week. We've got one this week. This one is from, I'll leave you with this one to think about. At HungerGamer88, he says, would you bum your dad to save your mum? Now, on first reflection, that is ridiculous. But on second reflection, it's like, if that scenario was there, would you do it? Bum your dad to save your money. It's a bit male, but then again, you could put a strap-on, so women can be involved in that as well. But let's get on with the ghost story, because we've got some other good questions as well. Like what film or TV series would you live in if you could? Would you rather know that your time is up or just die not knowing? So some of those, and what animal you'd be for a day. I've got that one as well. Why did I change my mind from leaving the United Stand a couple of years ago? And what does my day consist of? But let's get on with this ghost story. People have always asked me about doing a ghost story, and I'm going to do it for you now. Right. So I was about 14 years of age, and it was probably, it wasn't Halloween. I'm not going to pretend it was Halloween. I could pretend, because this is obviously, I'm telling you the story, so I'll tell you how it is. And so you can believe it or not, but this is the story. And so I used to live in a little village outside of Nottingham, and I say a village, it was a village. So when you walked out that village, you were into the countryside for at least like a mile every way to the next village or town or whatever. So you were surrounded by fields, and there was some woods, some ghost stories about that as well. But that's not what it's all about. My mate lived at the top of the hill, so you came into the town, you came into the village from one way down a hill, and he lived at the top of the hill. There was houses down the hill, and then you came down the hill. Took you about, to walk it would probably take about 2 minutes down this hill, and it did have houses there, but his house was the top on the edge. And it looked down on the village, and the village was quite big, probably a population of about 2,000. It had like probably, is it a village? Let's not get into the technicalities of that. It had 2 pubs, had a mini co-op and stuff, so it wasn't tiny. And it used to take me from my mate's house at the top of the hill to my house, which was sort of in the middle of the town. Probably that walk would take 10 minutes. And on your bike, I could blast it down the hill. I'd be home in like 3 minutes. So what I'd normally do is we'd always go up to his house because his mum and dad were like, you know, he had a better room, better PlayStation, not a PlayStation, whatever, more freedom there. So we'd always go there. So it's a Saturday night. It's an autumn night because it was definitely dark and it was definitely misty. And we're sat up at his house on this Saturday night. Now the backstory to this is that my mum and stepdad used to go out on a Saturday night. And they were out that night, and my younger siblings had gone to stay at the grandparents. So I'd gone to my mate's house, and I was going to go home after that because obviously 14 you're allowed to do that sort of stuff. But I'd normally take my bike, and normally my mate, who lived further away than me in the village, he would be there as well, but he wasn't there that night. There was only 3 of us. There was me, my mate, and his next door neighbour. And my bike had a flat tyre, so I'd gone up there when it was light at about 5 o'clock, and I couldn't bike back. So we're at my mate's house, and we're watching this film, and it wasn't a scary film. See, this is the thing. I could add something in there. I could say we were watching Freddy Krueger. We weren't. We were just watching a film, and it wasn't a very good film. So we were talking about stuff, and we started talking about the Man in Black, which was this story in the village of this man that had been seen by loads of people, and I'm sure loads of it was bollocks. But there's this man in like this black, what do they call them? Parkas. So like he used to have a black coat that came down to his knees and this hood over him like this. And he would just like follow people. There was loads of stories of, I'm even starting to get scared now, of people following him, of him following people, and you know, all this sort of stuff. My phone's just gone off. It better not be him. And anyway, we started talking about it, and at that age, and even now, I don't really like horror and stuff like that. So, like, I'm like, all I'm thinking about while they're telling me all these stories, and they're going, "Oh, such and such. Last year they were walking home from the pub, and they looked behind them on the little alleyway, and there he was in front of them, and they were screaming and shouting, and they had to run home and everything like that." And there's loads of stories like this. Anyway, and all I'm starting to think is, shit, I haven't got my bike, and I used to hate biking home from a mate's house when it was dark. Anyway, even on your bike with the hill as a start, and I blast it. You know, Chris Boardman had nothing on me getting home from a mate's house. And I'm like thinking, shit, I haven't even got my bike to race down, and I used to get scared on my bike. I've got to walk home, and also I'm going home to an empty house probably because my mum and stepdad didn't used to get home because there's a lock-in in the local pub, which means you can drink after hours. They didn't sometimes used to get home till 2, and it's like 10 o'clock now. And I always used to leave my mates at about 10:30 because that's when his mum and dad would say, you know, time to go. And I'm half thinking like, I'm terrified now, but it's, you don't get logical, like it's not going to happen to me anyway. And then I was even thinking, I was going to ask my mate's dad to give me a lift home. I thought, that's just ridiculous. That's even worse than being attacked by the Man in Black. So anyway, it gets to 10:30. I'm like, oh my God. See you later, lads. Off I go, walking down the hill. And you get to the bottom of the hill, and there's the youth club, which is next. I mean, this is great. Right at the bottom of the hill, next to the youth club, is the bloody graveyard and the church. So I'm like, there's a much quicker way to my house, but I'm like, no, I'm going to stick to all the main roads, really. I'm going to go round to the right, past the pub, and then up through the yards. But I've got to go across this like little mini village green, which is like, you could sprint it in 30 seconds. But anyway, I go past the graveyard, and I'm not 100% sure here, but I thought as I looked across, I don't know why I looked. I thought as I looked across the graveyard, I saw this man in black walking through about 20 metres away from me. And I was like, it made me, I'm going to be honest, I ran. And I actually think that bit of it is probably not true, but I ran. So I ran, and I ran up round past the pub, up this road, and then I hit the green. And I'm like, is there a way to go to my house without going round the green? And there was, but you had to go through this alleyway. And I wish I had gone through the alleyway, because I was like, if I run through that alleyway, then I'm at the top of another road. You walk, it's a longer way round, but I haven't got to go through the village green. I thought, sod it, I'm just going to go through the village green. I'm not going to run. There's something about me that thinks if you run, it's like shouting. You bring attention to yourself, don't you? So I start walking through the green. Halfway through the green, there is like a bench, which we used to sit on and talk. There's hardly anybody on this green ever anyway. You know, typically, sometimes you walk through that green and there's somebody walking their dog at that time of night. Typically not this night. So I'll start walking through the green, and you're on this pathway, and then you hit in the middle where the bench is, there's like 4 different routes you can go through the green, and mine's diagonally in front of me, and then you can see these 2 houses at the end of the green, the village green. So I look up there, and there, no word of a lie, stood there, hands in pockets, is this, what I presume is this man in black, just staring straight at me, and I'm in the middle of the green, and behind him is I've got to get to my house, and I'm even like shitting myself, and I'm like, my God, it's real. You know, all these stories, like, you know, you can't. It's always stories that scare you, but then right in front of me, probably about 40 meters away, so you know, there's a distance, just stood there looking straight down, and I look down. Is he got a dog with him, and it's just a coincidence, he's in an anorak, and he starts walking slowly towards me, and I just like, my stomach just dropped. I felt like throwing up. I've never been so scared in my life. So I just ran then. I ran to the right, down another way from the green, and I was like, I didn't really know what to do, because I didn't know what pub anybody was in. I did know people in the village, but even then, even when I've seen it in front of my eyes, I'm like, I'm not going to knock on doors. That's just it. Just even then, I was doubting myself. So I ended up running right round, trying to sort of like, so if my house is here, and I'm here, I've gone this way, and then I'm going to go right the way round through a route. So I came round this way, and there's this road in front of me. It's well lit. It's a road. And again, I'm walking up this road, and then it appears again in the middle of the road. I hadn't noticed it at first. I'm walking up this road, and then I got really close this time, 20 metres away, and it's just there in the middle of the road looking at me. Even closer, I can see it. And I'm just like, at this point, I'm like, I'm nearly bloody crying with fear, and it starts walking towards me again. And at no point do I see the face, because it's got this Parker thing on. And, you know, like me, I'm just like, I don't even know what to do now. So I just ran back again, and I was like, I just had to keep moving. And then I went all the way around again to try and find another way. And I never saw it again then. I never saw it again until I got on my road, and I looked back just at the junction of my road, and I'd walked up quite a long road, and all the way back down that road, I looked back as I came onto my road, and I saw it again. Not moving this time, but saw it again about 50 metres down behind me, just stood in the middle of the road again. So I ran up to my house this time. I just sprinted up to my house, because I thought there's no way it can see which house I'm going into, because it's too far down the other road. Got into my house, turned all the lights off, went up in stairs into my room, and I was just like absolutely trying to justify in my head what that was all about. And then after about half an hour or so, I was just like, because mum and stepdad weren't back from the pub, I was just like, well, half an hour's gone by, I've not heard anything. So I think I went downstairs, got myself a glass of water. This is 25 years ago, so it's before, you know, you're not going to phone anybody. I'm going to phone the police or anything. I just wanted my mum to come home, really. And I didn't say anything to her anyway. But anyway, she's not home yet. So I'll get myself a glass of water, put the telly on, because that always makes you feel better, doesn't it? And I'm watching the telly. I'm lying on my bed, and just, you know, I'd say 45 minutes has passed by now, and I'm just sort of like trying to fall asleep watching the telly, because it's better than falling asleep with the bloody light off, isn't it? And I'm just dropping off to sleep, and I thought at this point, looking back, I think I'd heard a couple of noises, because you always hear a couple of noises, and then I'm just dropping off to sleep, and I definitely didn't remember hearing something then, and I'm like, shall I get up? And I'm like, well, what are you going to do if you get up anyway? I'm just like, I don't really know what to do. Maybe it's my mum back and everything like that. Anyway, I'm just about to get up, and then this hand comes from underneath my bed with a black hand, you know, like a black and grabs my leg and starts pulling my leg like I've been pulling yours for the last few minutes. I haven't really got any ghost stories. Anyway, let's go on to the next question. Animal for a day. If I was going to be an animal for a day, I think that I would be a dog. Because the funny thing is, if that story had been true I was just telling you about, I actually had 2 quite big dogs in the house, and if I ever used to get scared when my mum and everyone was out, I'd just get the 2 dogs up in my room anyway. So there you go. I would be a dog for a day, because I think that on an evening, the dog comes into the living room, all the telly's on, and they don't get bothered. They just get to lie there in their bed in front of the telly, and they can just watch it for hours and hours. They ain't got to go and turn the dishwasher on or load it up or, you know, pop down the shop because we're out of milk. So yeah, being a dog sounds quite good to me. What else? I'm just laughing about that story. Even though I knew that story was made up, I was even getting quite scared of it myself. I should write horror. Or maybe you weren't scared at all. Know your time. Would you? I can't answer this question. Would you bum your dad to save your mum? I mean, it's just a ridiculous question. Look. When's the funeral, Mum? You know, I'm not doing that. God, no way. If any of you would, you know, you're a braver person than me. But how could you live with that? I saved my mum's life by bombing my dad. Ghost stories, we've done that. Maybe we'll ever do that again. Alright, I'll answer this one. A few years ago, the video's still out there, I was going to leave the United Stand. It was very early days on the United Stand. It was only 20,000 subscribers. It was less than that, and I just about had enough, and I was going to leave. And I did leave for 3 weeks, which anybody who watches the United Stand would know 3 weeks without me doing shows is a very long time. And somehow it limped on. A few people stepped up to the plate, and I did come back. And the reason I came back was because a few people I really respect sort of contacted me and said, you can't stop, you can't go, at least come back for another month and try it, but you can't go on that. And I basically stopped doing it because in the early days of the United Stand, there was a lot of people that I would call them bullies in the industry, who just were like, you know, spreading a lot of lies about, you know, who I was and who I supported, and ridiculing and everything like that, because they wanted the whole pie to themselves. They like pie, and I just got a bit fed up with it. I had no experience in doing like social media, etc. So I didn't realise that you know, having been in the police and stuff and dealt with evil and idiots and etc. I didn't expect that really existed in like what is effectively just people doing YouTube videos, etc. But it does. It does. It happens everywhere. There's always people trying to get one up on you, and some people will tell lies and spread lies about you to do that. So ultimately, that's why I came back. Really, is because speaking to people, they were like, you can't let them win, and ultimately, I don't like bullies. So yeah, I came back and never looked back. And it has been worse. The stuff has still continued, but like any bully, when you stand up to them, they just cower. And all these people who have been bullies in the past, I've seen them face to face, or I've said, "Come on, let's have it out," and they'll go, "Well, there's no problem. What are you on about?" So, yeah, bullies for you, isn't it? Would you rather know your time's up or die suddenly? So I suppose that question, and that's from Elliot United 2, and I'll just shout out some of the people who have put questions in. At Jurgen Klopp LFC _ and also we've had it at Hunger Games, at Neil26242908. We're going to read his in a moment. But would you rather know your time's up, or would you rather have not know? So I suppose it's a choice between, you know, suddenly dying in your sleep, or knowing that you've only got maybe 6 months to live. I don't know. I think it's a very good question. It's a very morbid question. I think for me, I think I would rather know, because I more think about the people that you're going to leave behind, and I think suddenly is harder for them than knowing it's going to happen. And I've experienced that. I think, you know, like with family members and friends, when, you know, it's nothing changes the fact that it's very, very sad. But if you've got time to prepare for it, it's not even about preparing for them going, because it's still horrible when they go, but it's about it's about simplistic things like, you know, finances and things like that. It just makes it a lot easier for those people that you leave behind. Very boring and sad, serious question, but there you go. Selfishly, as they say, it's better to burn out than to fade away. What a song that was by Neil Young and covered by Oasis. If you could live in any movie or TV series, I thought this was a brilliant question from Neil at Neil26242908. Baywatch. I would love to live in Baywatch because, and I just like helping people who are having problems in water. It's got nothing to do with the scantily clad men and women in red. I like the weather. I like the sand, and I like helping people in distress in the water. Also, I think it's a very, very good question. I used to have this fantasy that I was in Coronation Street, and Coronation Street's always been a little bit tamer than EastEnders. And what I'd basically do is I'd go into Coronation Street and literally cause loads of mayhem, and then go out of it for 6 months, then come back in again. You know, yeah. Only in my head is that a good thing, I think. But I've exhausted myself on the show today. I hope you've had a good one. Let me just have a look if there's anything else that I would like to cancel that I haven't mentioned already. Controversial one. I did put it down there. I put social media for under 14s. I've got a couple of kids myself, and I think they use social media and apps and everything like that way too much. And I don't think, and I'm sure there's people under 14 who are going to be watching this, but personally, I don't think you should be on social media under 14. I think you've got a whole childhood to live. I think I look back to my childhood, and I think, you know, any bit of light I was outside, you know, whether it was playing army or football or whatever, you know, playing out with your mates, etc. You know, if it was raining outside, playing board games, building Lego, playing with your Star Wars, and everything now is just on like this, and I just think it's sad. Obviously, this is a lot of people are going to be watching this show on social media, so I'm not saying social media is a bad thing. I just would like to see a limit on it. It's never going to happen, but I just don't think the amount of kids on their phones under 14 is a good thing. That's a personal thing for me. Anyway, thanks everyone for watching. I hope you've enjoyed the show. A little bit different today, but I hope you've enjoyed it. I'll speak to you all soon.